I did it. I won one, and I couldn't be happier. So, if anyone's been following, I just started playing Lorcana back in January, and this is my first TCG. So, I mean, of course, it's been a goal to try and win a set champ at some point. Um, I know that it's not the loftiest of goals because a lot of people have gone out and won these. I felt like I had to get pretty lucky to do it in a lot of situations, just with matchups and card draw. Um, but I don't care. I'm excited. I mean, this is a pretty big accomplishment for me, especially with really how recently I started playing. I did it with Steel Song. I've been playing the first set I played Hyper Aggro with Amber Amethyst just so I could learn how to play. And then I switched over to the Diggy Hole deck, the Mines deck, that DeCandio put out. And I did pretty good in the first set champs that I went to. I think I got 12th and then 5th with the Diggy deck. And then I decided at the beginning of this set that I was going to learn a more complete version of Steel Song. So I put together a Steel Song set, mostly from DeCandio's list, but I still had like my own flair on it a little bit, I think. And then with the changes to blue, I basically just assumed I'm going to lose like crazy, and that was what happened. So at the beginning of the set, with all the Hiram and before the Hiram and before the Bell kind of got nerfed with the Fortisphere, I was losing a lot to blue steel and to red blue. And I know that the red blue matchup is already bad, so it was much, much worse. But I just decided that I was going to test basically all the things that I haven't been around to test. So I went the full control route. I tried to get away from Daisy Duck um, and really tried to figure out more of the game, why people aren't playing some of the cards that they used to play. So, like, Grab Your Sword was really good in the deck. And I tried Ariel and I tried the Big Cinderella. I tried Tinkerbell along with Grab Your Sword. I tried playing for Prince Naveen. There were a lot of variations trying to stay away from from Piglet and Daisy Duck for trying to rush through red blue. Trying with just Piglet, trying with Lilo. So I tried a lot of variations, just assuming that it was kind of a lost cause for this set. So I might as well have fun and learn something. And then after the bans, it kind of came right back into the meta, and I know that everyone's been seeing Steel Song basically everywhere now. So I can go over my list and I'll go over the matches a little bit. Again, I'm not a pro by any means. I'm a brand new player as of this year. But this is really exciting for me, and I started doing content creation in the last month or so. So really good timing just to be able to go over it with all of you guys. So here, I'll go over to the list. So this is what I landed on. This is 62 cards. It's 19 uninkables. 19 is really high. And I'll go over the set list first before, or the deck list first before I go over all of the games. The reason it's so high, I think, is because I'm playing two of the Zero to Hero and two of the Prince Naveen. I think Prince Naveen is really, really good. When I was playing four, what I would find out or find happening is I would brick hands where I had multiple of them in my hand at once. And it's not a great card if you don't have songs with it or if you need some ink. It just felt really bad. So if I ever had three of these, it felt like I was losing a game. And that was the same thing for Zero to Hero. Every once in a while, I would run into an issue. It even happens now where I'll have two of these in my hand and no characters out because it's the wrong time. And when that happens, it feels terrible. And I think that that's why some of the lists, especially like the one that Brandon DeCandio was running, that's very similar in some ways and different in others. He was running Lantern. If I had to guess, it's because it's considerably more consistent. Zero to Hero is a little bit more high rolly, but it's really fun when Zero to Hero works, and you can win games with a Zero to Hero play because they really can't respond to some of the big bodies you can put out after Whole New World. So I can go over that play a little bit too. But just going through it, I tried to get away from Daisy Duck, and I just couldn't. I finally put it back in. I added two piglets, and these two piglets are here. This is the two in the 62, right? The deck, I loved the way it was otherwise, and I just needed something for red blue to give me a chance. And I figure rushing as high as I can early and then trying to eke out just a little bit of that lore at the end was the only way I was going to win those matchups. I have been losing to red blue Always. I have a really hard time with it. Some of the players in my area are really, really good, and I've been learning from them quite a bit just by losing to them. So I've tried to stay positive with that and get something out of it, but usually I try to bring that up to them because I don't want it to be, boring when they're playing into me. Um, but I've mentioned to them repeatedly, like every time I play against them, I learn so much. And I think that that was helpful in this, so I'll go into that too. But Piglet is really only there for that matchup. Most of the time, it's Anchor. If I get it late, I can kind of squeak it out for to close down a game. I did go with the Robin Hood shift line. I just like it because of this 3/6 stat line. So the reason that I don't like Cinderella right now, I don't like Bianca, um, and to a degree, I don't like Beast. But the reason for these is how easy they are to take out from certain colors. So Beast, I don't love that Steel deck can take it out with Zeus really easily. Robin Hood and Ariel, they really can't do that, which I like. I don't like playing cards that the Steel Song Mirror match, they can take it out with World's Greatest Criminal Mind because it feels really bad. If you get a Cinderella out or if you get a Bianca out and it gets taken off the board right away, especially if Cinderella sings it or some low cost character is singing that off, it feels like it puts you so far behind that it's I don't know that it's always worth the efficiency. So I guess it just depends on your meta and what you're playing into. But for me, and skill level to a degree, this just felt better. So as far as my big bodies went, I'd stuck with the ones that had under 5 strength, and tried to stay over 5 willpower, and that served me really well. Because I'm not playing Bianca, I did play Ursula so that it went into the Rapunzel a lot easier. I did play 3 Smee, 4 Ariel, just so I had singers in the filter through. I tried playing with Aurora earlier on in the set, and I really liked it. But I feel like you just need this card draw. So again, I was learning things that everybody else kind of already knows, but I wanted to learn them for myself. So when I started playing Ariel, things started going a lot better. Uh, Pete goes without saying. I don't think that you can play less than 4. Rapunzel, same thing. So Beast. The reason that I started playing Beast is I noticed that the games that I don't get into Rapunzel, or if I don't see Whole New World, I was running into a lot of draw issues. And I thought it would be nice to have something in there that I could kind of have as an in between if I'm not running into either of these cards or a situation where I could use them. And because I'm running 0 to hero, it happens more often that I can get these big bodies out than I think it would otherwise. I know with Lantern you can do it like a turn earlier, but what's really nice about 0 to hero is singing 0 to hero before Whole New World if you have 4 or 5 characters out. Then your beast is free basically on your after you reload your hand, and then you still have all of your ink to play. So when that happens, it can be kind of crazy. It also means that you can get a beast out in the same turn as something else. So if you have like a Cinderella, maybe you have Cinderella, um, you know, Daisy Duck, Robin Hood, and then maybe, like an Ariel. You have maybe you have 4 characters out like this, but you don't necessarily have the Robin Hood. Um, on the next turn, you can either play a character. So say you had by then you're what on your 4th ink. So if you even if you're playing like Rapunzel on that turn and getting some value somewhere, maybe off of the Smee, um, maybe you have a Smee out and you get it off of that, or you got Ursula out somewhere in there. You can 0 to hero after that. Now you have 5 characters on the board and you can get your beast out. So there's little things like that where you can cheat out a lot of ink all at once instead of like Lantern where it's just kind of incremental. You're just a little ahead every turn. Um, and I've noticed that that's really, really helpful just for the way that I play. It's also fun. And I think part of that, why I've been doing that, is I don't see a lot of players playing with 0 to hero for Steel Song, probably for the consistency reason. So it's kind of become my thing, and I kind of like that, right? Like, the Steel Song core is basically the same, for the most part across the board. And there's just little changes here and there, right? Decisions to make, like the Bianca, whether or not to play the big Cinderella, things like that, which shift line. But 0 to hero, I really don't see. And so I just like that. That's kind of my flavor on this, I guess, or the way that I like to play it. And then this is, I think for the songs, this is basically what most people are doing. The Two World's Greatest Criminal Mind is really good for the Mauis. I think Tamatoa too. And then it was useful in a game that had Chernabog, the big Chernabog, which was really cool. 4 Storm, 4 Strength, 3 Zeus, and then 4 Whole New World. So I've been really comfortable with this. I landed on this probably about a week ago, where this just felt like this is the best that I can do with just the way that I play and my skill and knowledge level. Which I think is really important for me too, is just to recognize that if something works for like a major content creator. I kind of learned this with the Diggy deck. Just because something worked in that deck for someone that's really, really good at the game, um, how I went from 12th place in the one prior to 5th in the next was by taking out some of the higher cards like the Kita, and some of the cards that I just didn't have the knowledge to know how to use it and when to use it at the time, and then switch it out for like the 3 cost Baloo. So I kept getting stuck at around 18 lore and not having any way to get up to 20. Baloo basically solved that. And I knew that that would be more impactful for how much I knew how to play and how I was playing than having tech cards for other things. So um, I think that this is a little bit like that too. The way that I have this is, I think the Zero to Hero, even the Beast, these are almost like band-aids over a skill level issue I probably have. And they work beautifully. The Beast is such a good card if you can get it out early or along with another big card. Um, you start to run away with card draw pretty well. And it came in really handy in matchups where I didn't want to use Whole New World and refill their hand. Um, Beast was super valuable. So that's kind of how the deck plays. I can go through each of the matchups. So some of these were easier than others, or at least my deck played into them a little bit better, or the way that I was playing. The first one I played against was a really interesting deck. It was an aggro uh, red purple deck, and it was based around Arthur, the one that when you quest with it, you can return a character card of yours to your hand for 2 lore, I believe. Um, and it was really cool. The person I was playing against, it looked like their board was very not threatening. Um, and they had, I think it was like an Olaf and 2 Arthurs out. And then they quested them in the right order that they got 7 lore off of 3 characters that only quest for 1 apiece. So I thought that that was really cool. I had to basically just do what Steel Song does, right? And just get Cinderella, get Ursula out, um, sing everything off the board while I'm developing my board. They're out of cards. Now I can just quest. So against aggro decks, that's usually the play, right? For Steel Song, it's why it's so good into them. The next one I played was against Red Purple, but it was kind of the more traditional Red Purple's deck. Um, I did pretty well with that. Again, kind of the same strategy as far as trying to slow them down on the front end and then, get a wide board, but as fast as possible, get some Daisy Ducks out, things like that potentially, and then Whole New World, and then Pete at the right time. So I think Red Purple's a little bit easier for me to wrap my head around just because I know when to Pete. Um, every once in a while I'll Pete early if I can, if I don't want to lose. Like say I went like Daisy Duck Piglet, um, I would Pete just to keep them alive from Brawl, maybe for one more turn. I've done things like that before, but for the most part, I just keep it for turn 7, and then just hope that I'm getting enough lore at that point that it's hard for them to come back from. And that's kind of how those games played out. I got really wide with the board. I had multiple Petes, um, and I think in both games where I was able to play them back to back and just finish out the game. So I got pretty lucky there. But also, I feel like the deck performed like how I drew it up, right, and it played exactly how I wanted. So um, getting the cards I needed made that one a lot easier. And these were all 3 game matches, and I was 2-0ing these. So in the first one, I was on the draw. Again, it was a little bit easier because um, it was an aggro deck. On the play versus red purple was pretty good, and then I ran into the red blue buzzsaw. So every time I play against this deck, it is awful. I in the very first game, actually that was later. So in these ones, I knew that the only way that I could play into this is trying to aggro early. So I was trying to do like the Daisy Piglet. I think I played these games a little bit more conservative though, where maybe on the mulligan I wasn't kind of all or nothing. So I was kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, trying to be aggro but develop, kind of control what they're doing. And honestly, once they got like the Maui half shark out, I think there was one of the games when I was on the play that if he didn't top deck, there was a card that gave him, I don't even remember what character it is, Maximus maybe, that gave him five, I think it gave him like five lore on a turn or something, and that's how he won. And if he didn't top deck it, I would have taken at least one. But the way those games were going, it did not feel like that would have mattered anyway. Um, so that was tough. And then the next match was against Blue Steel. I do still think that Blue Steel is a good deck, but I did really well into it, and I knew what he was attempting to do. I got really good card draw, and I could tell just from the start that he wasn't getting the cards that he needed, even on like hard mulligans. Um, so I think he probably got a little unlucky, and I got a little bit of more above average luck, right? And I feel like a lot of winning a set champ, at my experience, a lot of it does come down to that luck. I think. I assume in a really big tournament too, you kind of have to be lucky that you're at least on average or above average most of the time, or you're not the one that's breaking, right? So that's how I got into the top cut. I went in the second seed, which I was pretty excited about. They didn't do the first round based on seeding, which was a little frustrating. We had to roll, so the owner wanted us to roll for this one for the first round. So even though I was a higher seed, um, and that one I was on the draw, I just lost the dice roll. They were playing an Amber Emerald aggro deck, and I think you're probably seeing these kind of all over the place, with like Chernabog and all of the other aggro cards. In the first game, I think they got up to, I want to say around 15 lore, but I was just playing the control game. And I think what ended up happening in that first game is I got this Ariel out early. So I think I started with Cinderella. I may have gone Ursula and then Ariel, and then I shifted Ariel the next turn. So on turn five, I was able to start using. I had like multiple storms. They even Ursula one away, and I still had three more spells in my hand, um, which was kind of a big deal. And I think this Ariel pulled a World's Greatest Criminal Mind, and I believe they had Ursula before that, and then they didn't get another Ursula for the rest of the game. So this just sat in my hand, and I was just waiting for Chernabog, and they knew that. So they got up to 15. I was basically just singing everything off of their board and then questing, and not even really developing my board because most of the time I was hard casting the storm, and then I would use the other two wing to take off something else on their side, and then quest with my characters. Um, I was basically just making sure I had enough songs to take everything out. Um, I believe I got Robin Hood in there at one point too. I had a choice between Beast and Robin Hood. Of course, I didn't want a whole new world in that matchup, but I wanted to have card advantage. So I had both of these cards in my hand, and I could have played either. And I had a turn where I could use it that way and not let them get any lore. So I opted for Robin Hood to stop their Lilo from bringing itself out and sacrificing itself. They did it one more time, and then I think they kind of saw what I was doing there because then I Rapunzeled after I did it twice, I think. Um, so I think that they knew that they were kind of dead in the water. They didn't have any card draw, and they only had a Chernabog in their hand, and they knew that I had a World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Um, so by the time they played that, it was just because there was nothing they could do, and I was going to win on the next turn. Um, so that was good. And then the second game, I kind of did something similar. I think I did the Robin Hood shift, and then I had Rapunzel. So I was basically just taking their characters out, using Rapunzel, singing songs. Again, not using Whole New World. I may have even gotten into a Beast at one point, and they weren't able to put damage on it because I just never turned it sideways. And that's where I noticed the most out of Beast is anytime that I absolutely cannot play Whole New World or I'll lose. If I can get a Beast out and leave it upright, they have to have an answer for an upright character, or I'm getting 2 cards to start every turn, and that's really hard to come back from. So that's where I found the most value from Beast. Um, it happened in this game, and it actually happened in the next one too. So the next one I ran into was probably the most flustered I've ever been in a game because it was a long day. I mean, you can see that this was 7 rounds, so we were there for 7 hours. I think it was from 1, and I left at like 8:20. This game, the red steel match that I played, it was a Mushu deck, and I won the first one on the play pretty easily. Exactly how you draw it up, just taking out everything that they were putting out. And I wasn't really noticing like what the deck was trying to do. I noticed that a lot of their characters they wanted to have damage on them, so I was kind of avoiding just putting damage on something. But it seemed like an aggro deck. The second game when I was on the draw, um, at some point they had, I think they had like 2 Mushus out and like a Calhoun, and there was something else that was out. And I just kept building the board, but I caught myself being confused and flustered because I didn't quite understand how they were all interacting with each other to gain lore. And then I made the mistake of questing because I thought if I can get through this one turn, next turn I'll just win, right? I did that, and then they had like a 15 like lore turn basically based on what they had on the board. So my instinct, which felt wrong at the time, seemed right, which was just don't turn anything sideways and try and remove everything when it comes out. So in the next game, the last game when I was on the play, I just kept developing the board. I think I quested my Cinderella early because they didn't have a 1 drop. And then after that, I did not quest again until I had 20 lore on the board, which is ridiculous. Um, I was taking out as much as I could on their side, but I wasn't drawing spells, so I couldn't keep them at bay to the point where I could get rid of that. They had 2 Mushus out, 2 Calhouns, and then there was a couple other characters that they had out at one point that were a problem. And I think that they misplayed too. I was talking to my buddy about this. I think I was misplaying based on confusion. And I think that they misplayed as well because they could have been questing a lot more along the way. But we kind of ran into like a stalemate. And I think we both were so confused how to play into each other because we both were playing so unorthodox for, how the deck is supposed to play. Um, so in the end, I outraced it basically to how much could be on the board all at once, and then quested and won, which was it felt ridiculous, but it was an exciting game, but it took a ton out of me. That was crazy. I completely understand how he was winning all of the other games. It is that much of an aggro deck, and it was really interesting to me. It was really cool. And then the final. So the final was against a different red blue player that was playing a very similar Maui Shark deck. I think it might have even had Maximus, though I didn't. I don't think I saw it. Um, I was on the play for this, so you can. I mean, you know that I won it, but I was on the play for this one. And what was really tough about this is I lost the first game, and I lost it in a really strange, or not in a strange way. I lost it in an inexperienced way. So I played Daisy Duck, and then I played Piglet, and they on their first turn played Belle. I quested with Daisy Duck on that same turn. Next turn, they hit Daisy Duck for 3, and I think played T-Bow next. And in my mind, I felt like I need to keep rushing with this and get as much lore as possible because they're just going to take this stuff out anyway, right? If they have a brawl, they're just going to brawl it. So I might as well get all my lore immediately. Um, so I quested both Daisy and Piglet on the next turn, which was a huge mistake, and they took out both. So even though I was up to 7 lore on turn 3, and I think I used like an aerial or something, I lost the aggro side of my deck, and then it became a very long control, like chess match basically, where we're playing chicken a lot of times with Be Prepared, trying to get value out of Whole New World, things like that. I actually got it. I was I lost, but I got it down to the point where I played a Whole New World just to see. I thought I knew he had enough cards, but I didn't know for sure. I played a Whole New World, and he only had 2 cards left on his side. And because he had, I think he put 3 manners out, he just won on the next turn. But I almost decked him out, which was interesting. But I could tell it was just because of the strategy I took in the beginning. So the next one I was on the play, um, I think the next two times, what I did is all three of these, instead of like the first red blue game, I just decided I'm going to high roll this as much as possible. So I had a daisy. I think I had a piglet in my hand, or I mulliganed into a piglet every time. So my start was always daisy piglet, which was fortuitous. But I basically just mulliganed everything else away, and then got as much aggro cards as I could. So in one of the times I had daisy, piglet. I had Smee. I think I had a Pete. I think there was another daisy in my hand, but I couldn't really fit playing it until a little bit later. Um, And in that one, I learned my lesson. And what I did in that one is the same exact start. They played with Bell the same exact way. They attacked into my Daisy Duck, put 3 damage on it. But I had a Pete and a Rapunzel. So in that one, I'm really proud of this actually because it was something that I just kind of learned on during the games. Daisy had 3 damage. Piglet's out there fresh. I'm on turn 3. I used Pete and I did not quest with Daisy and Piglet because I knew that there was no way that they could take out Daisy or Piglet on that turn. And then at the start of my next turn, used Rapunzel, healed Daisy, got 3 card draw, quested for 6, and then also had my Rapunzel out and all the extra card draw. And I think the Daisy Duck, I think they got rid of Piglet, I believe Piglet, and then this Daisy Duck cruised for maybe another 2 quests, and that was awesome. I think I was able to use, I believe I was able to use maybe Pete to get rid of their Bell at one point. So that was a huge, I think that's what changed that whole game. And what kept happening in both of these games is I would get up to maybe 13 lore, maybe 15, and then the game felt like it would start, right? They have enough ink that they're starting to be able to be prepared and get rid of my board. Getting out manners, things like that, and it kind of puts a time on the game. And then so we basically just had to start playing from there. That's how it always feels when I play into it. Um, so that second game I was able to eke out, and then the third one I could tell by his body language that he wasn't getting the cards that he needed, and I kind of did a very similar start. I think it was I might have even played Smee with Daisy Duck on turn 3, and just got as much aggro as possible. And then the rest of that game is quite a bit of a blur. I remember he was very good at knowing what cards I probably had in my hand, and he was playing all of the Rush Mauis to take out my board. I was playing as much as I could to keep refilling my hand, knowing that he could be prepared at any time, and then filling the board with just enough that I had board control, hoping that he wouldn't be able to take it all out. Um, and then the Maui was eating my spell, so I'd like use a storm here and there if he left any damage on it. I think he was trying to pull spells out of me. Um, and then at one point I had to use World's Greatest Criminal Mind. I think it was when he put out a Maui Half Shark, and then he put out another Maui Half Shark on the next one, and I was out of spells. So that was when I think I had a full hand, or a lot of cards still, but I did not have any removal for that, and I was hoping I had a Pete too, and I didn't have one there for turns after that, and so I sung Whole New World, and I think I got a Zeus off of that, and that's kind of what won it. Getting a Zeus, being able to fill, I think I might have even used Zero to Hero there too, get a Pete out, all of that, so that there was really nothing they could do to wipe it on the next turn, and then that was it. So really fun. I could tell I was against some more experienced players, probably about half the time, and that made it much more gratifying too. There was 17 people that went. At one point, we thought that only it would be lucky if we got 8, and then a bunch of people drove in from like 2 hours away, just to play in that one. So we had 17 people. So good group of people. It makes the win feel a little bit more satisfying, like it was earned. Um, yeah, and it was really fun. I mean, to be able to win something like this is about as fun as it gets, I think. So um, that's my analysis on this. I mean, if anyone tries this deck or you have any questions about kind of how it plays, let me know because this is basically all I've been playing. But again, I'm by no means a professional at this, but I have had some success with this deck, and it, with how meta it is right now, it does work really well. So that's it for this. A little bit of bragging, a little bit of just being happy, right? But I wanted to do a video about it, and if anybody's been kind of following along, um, and trying out some of the deck choices that I've been making, just wanted to, culminate it with this is the deck list that I landed on, and I've been really happy with it. And I have another set champ that I want to play at the end of the month. I'm not going to change a thing in this. There was nothing that underperformed for me. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the video or like this content, I'm on Twitch at Gherkin. And also, if you can like and subscribe to the video, that would be great. Thanks.